Good evening. Welcome to tonight's scary bedtime story to help you fall asleep. Please comment below and tell me where you are watching from and what time it is there. I've always believed bad luck runs through me, thick as blood, heavy as breath. Strange things, unsettling things have always found their way to me. The neighbor who stared through his blinds every night. The substitute teacher who bumped into me after my shift at the diner. Little shadows following me, always just a step behind. Maybe it's because I'm small, 5 foot nothing, with a face people say looks younger than it should. Or maybe it's just that some people don't need a reason. Last year, scraping together what little savings I had, I finally moved into my own place. A third-floor shoebox apartment on Ashwood Avenue. The walls were paper thin. The hallway always smelled like burnt toast and old bleach, but it was mine. I loved the quiet, the freedom to exist without watching anyone else's face for warning signs. Still, caution clung to me, double-locking the doors, carrying a cheap pink pepper spray everywhere I went, choosing streets without alleyways. You don't grow up a girl in this world without learning how to disappear in plain sight. Last Friday, everything weighed heavier than usual. Work had been hell. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing with messages from my ex. I needed a small win, a bottle of wine, something stupid, something simple. There was a liquor store, Ashwood Spirits, just a quarter-mile away. I told myself the walk would clear my head. I tucked my wallet and keys in my hoodie, slid my earbuds in, and stepped into the fading light. The sky was bruised purple. A warm breeze rattled the trash in the gutters. Aaliyah's 1 in a Million played in my ears, soft and distant. I had barely made it to the end of the block when I noticed the car. A white Hyundai Elantra, an older model, the kind you see 100 times and never remember. It sat at the stop sign, engine idling, windows rolled down. Inside, a man, mid-40s, heavy dark beard streaked with gray, baseball cap pulled low, and his eyes locked onto me. I gave him a polite glance, that tight, don't bother me smile women learn when they're young, and kept walking. Heart steady, breath even. He smiled back, and he didn't look away. I picked up my pace. The busy intersection at West Ham Boulevard was half a block ahead. All I had to do was get across. Other people, safety, light. The Elantra pulled into the gas station across the street. I told myself he was getting gas, told myself 1,000 reasonable lies. When the light turned, I crossed, eyes straight ahead, music turned up. But when I glanced back, he wasn't pumping gas, he was sitting in his car, staring, waiting. I kept walking. Ashwood Spirits was in sight now, a squat building with a flickering neon sign that buzzed like a dying insect. Inside, the air was sharp and cold. Victor was behind the counter, an older guy with a cracked voice and a habit of calling everyone kid. Safe enough. "Evening, Danny," he said, frowning when he saw my face. "You good?" I hesitated, then nodded toward the door. "White Elantra," I muttered. "Guy's been watching." Victor's smile vanished. "You want me to call someone? Walk you home?" I shook my head. "No, it's fine. Maybe he'll leave." Lying to myself felt easier. I made a show of browsing. Dark Horse. 19 crimes. My fingers traced dusty labels without seeing them. Every few seconds, my eyes flicked to the window. Empty lot. Empty street. Gone. Relief bloomed shallow in my chest. Victor saw me checking. "You sure you're good?" "I'll be quick." I paid for the wine. Brown bag clutched tight against my chest. Stepped outside. The world had turned heavy. The sunset gone. The air thick. The streetlights flickering like dying stars. I walked fast. Past the broken sidewalk. Past the boarded-up laundromat with its hanging payphone cord swaying in the breeze. And then, "Hey, where you headed?" His voice, too close, tore through the hum of traffic. I turned, and there he was. The man from the Elantra, standing half-hidden behind the bus stop. Too close, far too close. The grin he gave me wasn't a smile. It was a trap snapping shut. "Hey," he said again, taking a step forward, hands up like he was calming a stray dog. Thought you looked familiar. I stepped back, one hand slipping into my pocket, brushing the smooth plastic of my pepper spray. I don't know you, I said. Flat, cold. He kept moving. Come on, don't be like that. Just trying to be friendly. What's your name? I pulled the spray free, thumb hovering over the trigger. Back the fuck off, I said. For a second, a long, endless second, he froze, smile faltering, eyes narrowing. Then he raised his hands in mock surrender. All right, he muttered, voice sour. No need to be a bitch. He shuffled backward. I didn't wait. I ran, cutting through the gas station lot, ducking behind the nail salon, breath burning in my throat. Behind a dumpster, I crouched, heart hammering so loud I thought he could hear it. I texted Victor. He's back. Call the cops. Now. I waited. Every car horn, every distant shout, every shifting shadow stretched and sharpened into a threat. Finally, the distant wail of sirens rose, carving through the dark. When the cruiser rolled into the lot, I stayed hidden until I saw Victor waving me over. My legs were rubber, my mouth dry, but I stepped out. The cop, a woman, mid-30s, sharp-eyed, motioned me forward. You the one who called? I nodded. I told them everything. The car, the man. The way he waited, watched. They didn't find him. Of course they didn't. Men like that slip through cracks you don't even realize you're standing on. Victor walked me home. Didn't say much. Didn't need to. At my door, he waited until I locked the deadbolt before heading back. I stood there in the dark, keys still in my hand, the cheap bottle of wine on the counter. The apartment felt smaller. The shadows stretched longer. The silence screamed louder. I wasn't okay, but I was alive. And sometimes that's all you get. They say small towns are supposed to be safe, supposed to be the kind of places where you can leave your doors unlocked, where the biggest scandal is someone's kid smoking behind the gas station. Dry Creek, Oklahoma was supposed to be like that. But when I got there, it was already rotting from the inside out. You could smell it under the fresh painted welcome signs. Rot, meth, and desperation stronger than blood. A place where everyone knew everyone, but nobody trusted a damn soul. I didn't grow up there. I ended up in Dry Creek by mistake. Followed a man named Noah. Thought love was enough to outrun the decay. Noah was an ex-Marine. Tattoos down his arms, a quick laugh, and a temper if you crossed someone he cared about. We lived in a squat, crumbling brick apartment across from an abandoned church. It wasn't much, but it was supposed to be a start. 3 weeks ago, when it happened, we were still settling in. Moving boxes stacked high, mattress on the floor, kitchen half unpacked. It was one of those long, muggy mornings when the sun already feels heavy before noon. I had errands to run, gas for the car, groceries, pick up my prescription. And, almost as an afterthought, a bottle of Noah's favorite whiskey, Buffalo Trace. I wasn't in the mood for another trip, but I figured, screw it. I was already out. It would be quick. Cork and Barrel Liquors sat between a dying vape shop and a payday loan shark, the parking lot a patchwork of crumbling concrete. When I pulled in, the clock on my dash read 10:02 a.m. Too early for trouble. Too early for anyone but the desperate and the hungover. I noticed 2 vehicles. One looked like an employee's, plastered with school booster stickers. The other was an old, dented blue pickup truck. The kind of truck you stop seeing in a town like Dry Creek because there's just too many of them. I slipped inside. The bell over the door gave a lazy, broken jingle. The place smelled like wet cardboard and stale beer. The cashier, a kid half asleep behind the counter, barely looked up. As I browsed the whiskey aisle, I noticed him. The old man. Standing a little too still, a little too quiet, 2 rows over. Heavy denim jacket, yellowed teeth when he smiled. Holding a 6-pack in one hand and a bottle of cheap wine in the other. He turned toward me, eyes sharp, grin wide and cracked. "Starting early, darlin'?" he drawled. I forced a thin smile. "It's not for me." He nodded slowly, like he was filing something away in his head. "Good woman," he said. I grabbed Noah's whiskey and made my way to the register. Paid, thanked the cashier, headed for the door. That's when the air changed. Thicker, hotter. The parking lot felt wrong. The pickup truck was no longer where it had been. It was pulled across the only exit, blocking the way out, positioned deliberately, both windows down, and sitting inside staring straight at me was the old man. But he wasn't alone. Behind the wheel sat another man, obese, bald, arms folded across a chest that strained the seams of his shirt. Face twisted into a scowl so deep it looked carved in stone. I froze on the sidewalk. The old man leaned out the window, voice casual, almost sad. "I wish I was your boyfriend." No smile this time, just the words, heavy and final. It wasn't flirtation. It wasn't a joke. It was a promise. The air seemed to pulse around me. My keys bit into my palm. The taser Noah made me carry, disguised as a pink flashlight, pressed against my fingers. Slowly, without turning my back, I edged toward my car. The driver's eyes tracked me like a predator measuring distance to its prey. The old man said nothing more, just watched like he already owned me. I set the paper bag on the passenger seat, my hand wrapped around the taser. I clicked it once. Bzzz-t. The crack of electricity echoed sharp and violent across the lot. Both men flinched. The truck's engine roared. Tires screamed against the concrete as they peeled out, bouncing over the curb, nearly ripping off the muffler as they gunned it down the road. I stood there, trembling. For a long moment, I couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. Was it overreaction? Paranoia? No. They had waited. They had blocked the only exit. They had stared at me like I was something they had already decided to take. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a hunt. I climbed into my car, locked the doors, started the engine with shaking hands, and drove. And didn't stop until I was home, behind locked doors, every window covered, every light on. That night, Noah held me tighter than he ever had. Said if he ever saw that truck again, he wouldn't call the cops. He'd handle it. We moved out a week later, faster than we planned. Not just because of that day, because of Dry Creek itself. A town rotted from the inside, smiling at you through yellowed teeth. Now every time I pass a liquor store, every time I pull into a parking lot alone, I check. I check the corners. I check the exits. Because some debts, like owing someone a bottle of whiskey, are easy to pay back. But some debts you don't even know you're racking up until it's too damn late. I've always been drawn to late-night drives, not the kind with playlists and snack stops. I mean the kind that happen after dark, when the roads are quiet and something inside you feels restless. Like you're not driving to something, you're driving away from it. When I was a kid, my mom used to say I had hound blood, always trying to jump in the car anytime my Uncle Dan or older cousin Troy went somewhere. Didn't matter where. The gas station, the dump, even the liquor store. I just needed to be moving. Maybe because our house never felt safe when it was still. We lived in a dying town called Cinder Hollow. One main road that peeled with potholes, a pizza place that smelled like fryer grease and mold, a movie shop that hadn't changed the window poster since 2003, and Warren's Liquors, a squat window-barred shack on the outskirts. That place always felt off, even before that night. My grandmother swore by a cheap sherry called Midnight Gold. Said it helped her sleep. I think it helped her forget. It was a cold, skeletal September night. I remember the clouds hung so low, it felt like the sky wanted to crush us. Troy had just finished work at the auto shop. He pulled into the drive, headlights spilling across our porch like searchlights. Leaning on the horn, he called out, "Your grand's out. You in?" I didn't even respond. Just grabbed my hoodie and bolted for the car like I was escaping. The second I climbed in, I could tell something was off. The seat was cold, the kind of cold that sinks in fast, like the chill you get when someone walks over your grave. Troy fiddled with the static-laced radio. Some old rock station buzzed faintly from a nearby county. "You cool to go in this time?" he asked, flicking his headlights on as we pulled out. I shrugged. "Aren't I too young?" Troy smirked. "Only if you plan on getting caught." Warren's Liquors looked worse than usual that night. The sign above the door buzzed and blinked. Only 2 letters still worked. It just read "or," which felt fitting. The parking lot was nearly empty, except for a single faded Oldsmobile, parked crooked, way in the back corner. No lights on inside, just stillness, and something that felt like it was waiting. Troy left the truck idling. "Back in 5. Don't let any freak steal my ride." I forced a laugh and locked the doors the moment he stepped out. The radio hissed white noise. I leaned against the window, breath fogging the glass. That's when I saw him. He was standing just outside the range of the broken lot light. Not quite in shadow, not quite in view. Old, weathered, face leathery and pale like it had never seen sun. He didn't move. At first I thought he might be a drunk or just lost. Then he stepped forward, his face twisted into a grin that was wrong. Too wide, too sharp. Like someone had carved it into his skin and he forgot how to close it. Something in my chest locked up. I pressed the lock button again, even though I already had. He stepped closer. I could see the stains on his jacket. Dried and dark, like blood or oil or something worse. His eyes were glassy and gray, empty but watching. He raised a hand and waved, slow, mocking. He said something I couldn't hear. The radio's static swallowed it whole, but his lips shaped something like, "Open up, sweetheart." I didn't move. Then he pointed, to the passenger side. A demand, like I was supposed to unlock it and welcome him in. I flinched and turned toward the store. Still no Troy, no signal on my phone. Dead, as always. When I looked back, he was inches from the window. His hand slammed the glass, loud and deliberate. I yelped and jerked back, heart in my throat. His breath fogged the glass. The grin was still there, still impossibly wide. And then, movement. Behind him. 2 more. They emerged from the dark like they'd been waiting under the surface of the earth. One was thick-set, slack-jawed, his baseball cap torn and soaked. The other was lanky, too tall, eyes sunken into his skull like something had hollowed him out. They didn't rush. They didn't have to. They just walked toward the truck, like they already owned it. I hit the horn. The blast of sound shattered the silence like a gunshot. Troy burst from the store, bottle in hand, his face flipping from confusion to fury the moment he saw them. "What the hell?" he shouted, breaking into a sprint. The man at my window tilted his head, the grin never fading, then backed away into the dark. He raised a hand and waved again. But not to me. To the others. They vanished. Melted into the night like shadows dissolving. Troy yanked open the driver's door. "You okay?" he asked, eyes darting to every corner of the lot. I nodded, but couldn't speak. The cold had sunk too deep. We didn't talk on the way home. The heater roared, but it couldn't warm me. At the house, Troy killed the engine and leaned on the wheel. "You lock the doors, every time." "Yeah," I whispered. "Good." We never told anyone. Not Mom, not Gran. But a week later, a girl from Silverton, the next town over, vanished. Last seen outside a 24-hour mini-mart.
They never found her.
I don't know what those men wanted, but I do know they weren't drunk. They weren't lost, and they weren't human in the way people are supposed to be. They were waiting, hunting. And some nights, even now when it's late and the roads are quiet, I still hear that grin behind my eyes. And I never ever go near liquor store parking lots alone. I used to think places like Maple Hollow were safe. Tidy sidewalks, porch swings, quiet nights. The kind of town where you forget to lock your door and nothing happens. But I learned that monsters don't hide under your bed. They wait for you out there. In the aisles you think you know. In the rain-soaked parking lots you think are empty. It was a rainy Saturday night when it happened. Marcus, my husband, and I had decided to make a quick run to Crossroad Liquors. Just a bottle of wine, some beer, a candy bar for our daughter Emily, who was too excited about the candy mission to stay home. The storm had rolled in heavy and low, hammering the streets until they shone like black glass. The kind of rain that muted the world, swallowed sound whole. We bundled Emily up in her pink jacket, left Isla, our baby, at home with my grandmother, Dolores, and set off into the storm. The parking lot at Crossroad was almost empty, a black sedan idling near the door, and a gray Dodge Charger that pulled in right after us. 2 men got out of the Charger, well-dressed, laughing too loudly, jackets slick from the rain. Marcus scooped Emily into his arms, her tiny hands clutching his jacket, and we hurried inside. The store lights buzzed overhead, casting the narrow aisles in sickly yellow. It smelled of old mop water, spilled beer, and cigarettes that had long since been smoked down to ash. The heater rattled somewhere above, struggling to fight the cold. Marcus peeled off toward the beer coolers. I led Emily to the candy aisle. She beamed up at me, holding 2 candy bars. "Please, Mommy, just this once?" I smiled and said yes. Anything to see that light in her eyes. We met Marcus at the register. The cashier, a man named Victor we barely knew, rang up our things with slow, distracted hands. That's when it started. A voice from outside, faint at first, blurred by the thick glass and hammering rain. "Come on! Come at me! I ain't scared!" We froze. Victor's head snapped up. Marcus shifted Emily's weight against his hip. The 2 guys from the Charger fell silent behind us. The rain blurred the windows into gray smears. But even through it, I could see the street was empty, except for the cars in a city bus parked across the intersection. "Just some drunk," I whispered to Marcus. I prayed that was all. The door slammed open. Hard, so hard it bounced off the wall and swung back again. A man stumbled inside, soaked, muddy, wild-eyed. He looked broken, the way old trees break when the inside rots out. His denim jacket was stiff with grime. His boots tracked wet dirt and worse across the floor. But it was his eyes that chilled me. Bloodshot, pinned, something chemical leaking through them, meaner than alcohol. He zeroed in on Marcus like a bull catching a scent. "You!" He jabbed a shaking finger, voice ragged with rage. "You think you're better than me, huh? You brown piece of shit! Come on! Hit me! Kill me!" Emily whimpered and buried her face in Marcus's chest. Marcus didn't move, didn't flinch. He just shifted. Subtle, but deliberate, placing his body squarely between the man and us. The 2 men from the Charger backed away, their bravado melting off them like wax. Victor hovered near the panic button under the counter, his hand twitching but not pressing it. The air snapped tight. I felt it in my teeth. The man turned his anger toward the Charger guys. "You scared, pretty boys, huh? You scared now?" He swung a fist lazily, the blow missing by a mile but enough to send one of them crashing into the chip racks, knocking bags to the floor. Nobody spoke. Nobody breathed. My skin was slick with fear. My legs ached with the need to run. But Marcus stood his ground. "Look, man," he said, voice low, firm, but calm. "You made your point. No one here wants trouble. You've got 2 choices. Walk out, or deal with the cops when they get here." The wild man swayed, blinking like he didn't understand the words. Then his gaze dropped. To Emily. To me. And something flickered across his face. Something almost human. He muttered something. Something about not hurting kids. And staggered back toward the door. Without another word, he disappeared into the rain. For a long moment, no one moved. Then everyone moved at once. Marcus yanked the bags off the counter. Victor fumbled behind him for the store phone. The Charger guys whispered hurried thanks as they vanished into the storm. We sprinted to the car, shielding Emily from the downpour. As we pulled out of the lot, I spotted him. The man. Running into the street, arms wide, daring the traffic to hit him. A city bus screeched to a halt inches from his body. He didn't even blink. Didn't flinch, just kept running. Straight into the path of an oncoming sedan. I grabbed my phone, dialed 911 with shaking fingers. The dispatcher was calm, too calm. "Stay safe, ma'am. Officers are on their way." But safety felt like a dream then. Something I had already left behind without realizing it. The rest of the night, I stared out into the rain. Even after Marcus double-checked the locks. Even after we tucked Emily into bed. even after the wine burned a slow, bitter trail down my throat. I sat there listening to the storm, knowing that not all monsters hide their faces. Some of them are standing right in front of you, broken, dripping wet, daring the world to hit them. And sometimes, they win. It was supposed to be an easy 4th of July. No big parties, no drama. Just me, my boyfriend Tyler, some grilled burgers, and a few close friends. The plan was simple, until I forgot the wine. Around 6 that evening, while Tyler was flipping burgers on the rusted grill, he called out, "Jenna's gonna kill me if I don't bring her stupid Pinot Noir. Can you run and grab it?" I sighed. Fine, it wasn't a big deal. The liquor store, Maple Ridge Spirits, was just a few minutes away. The sun was still high, but already beginning to sink, throwing long, bruised shadows across the streets. Fireworks popped faintly in the distance, the air heavy with the smell of smoke and grass. When I pulled into the parking lot, the place was half empty. Maybe 10 cars scattered around, their paint dulled by the dust and heat. Inside, the store was dim. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. The air smelled like spilled beer, old wood, and something sickly sweet, like a mess no one bothered to clean properly. The cashier, a middle-aged woman flipping through a magazine, didn't even look up when I entered. Good, I just wanted to get the wine and get out. I made my way toward the back. That's when I noticed him. A man, standing by the red wines, gray hoodie, baggy jeans, filthy sneakers. He wasn't looking at the shelves. He was looking at me, eyes flicking between me and the door, sizing me up. My stomach twisted, but I forced myself to stay calm. People shop, people browse. No reason to panic. I grabbed 2 bottles, a Pinot Noir for Jenna, a Cabernet for Tyler, and turned toward the counter. Blocked. He was standing in the middle of the aisle, not moving, just watching. "Excuse me," I said, voice light, polite. He smiled, or tried to. It looked wrong, like he hadn't smiled in years and had forgotten how. "You here all alone?" he asked, his voice dry, rasping. Something primal screamed in my gut. "Run!" I squeezed past him, feeling his arm brush mine. Not an accident. Deliberate. The cashier still wasn't looking. I paid in cash, fumbling the bills with shaking hands, grabbed my brown paper bag, and practically bolted for the door. Outside, the lot was drowning in long shadows. The sun bleeding into the horizon, fireworks cracking in the distance like gunshots. I kept my head down, kept walking. Halfway to my car, I looked back. He was standing in the doorway, still smiling, still watching. I fumbled for my keys, heart hammering in my chest. Unlocked the door with a trembling hand, slammed it shut behind me. When I looked up again, he was moving toward me. Not running, not hurrying, just walking, steady. Like he knew there was nowhere left for me to go. I started the car, backed out so fast the tires squealed against the cracked asphalt. Only when I was a mile away, surrounded by kids lighting fireworks and laughing, did I let myself breathe. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I stared at the screen, bile rising in my throat. I didn't answer. A few seconds later, it buzzed again. Voicemail. I hesitated, then hit play. The message was static at first. Then a whisper. "You forgot something, Maya." I nearly dropped the phone. I hadn't said my name, hadn't shown my ID. I hadn't spoken a word to him. He knew. He knew. I sped home, the wine bottles rattling in the seat beside me. Tyler was outside grilling when I skidded into the driveway. He laughed, until he saw my face. "Maya? What's wrong?" "There was a guy," I said, voice breaking. "At the store. He followed me. He knows my name." Tyler's face went hard. He listened to the voicemail, then grabbed his keys. "We're calling the cops," he said, jaw tight. They were polite when they arrived, but detached. "He didn't threaten you directly. Could be a wrong number," the officer said with a shrug. Bullshit. I knew what I had felt, what I had heard. That night, every crack of fireworks made me jump. Every shadow on the walls stretched too long, too dark. I barely slept. I watched the windows until the sun came up. 2 weeks passed. I started to relax. Started to pretend maybe it had been a misunderstanding. Until I found it. One morning, walking to my car, I spotted something tucked under my windshield wiper. A bottle of wine, Apothic Dark. The same one he had been holding that night. Taped to the bottle was a note. "See you soon, beautiful. I moved out of Maple Ridge within the month. I don't go to liquor stores alone anymore. I don't walk anywhere without checking behind me."
Because somewhere out there,
He's still watching.
waiting.
And next time I might not be so lucky. I used to love errands with my mom. In Willow Glen, where nothing exciting ever happened, even a trip to the liquor store felt like an adventure. My little sister Lily was only 3 back then, always babbling, always strapped into the shopping cart. I was 8, old enough to wander a little, old enough to start noticing the world doesn't always look back at you kindly. We were at Lacey's Liquor. It was one of those weird hybrid stores. Sold everything from cheap wine to birthday cards to dusty shelves of faded toys. It was October, the kind of cold that makes your nose sting and your breath curl in front of you. Lily had found some little plastic toy and was giggling to herself. Mom was scanning the wine shelf, trying to remember if Aunt Marie drank Chardonnay or Sauvignon Blanc. And me? I was at the back of the store, where the toys were. Old, faded packaging, plastic soldiers with warped limbs, alien figures with googly eyes, things no one bought anymore. I was squatting down in front of a cardboard box marked Space Warriors, pretending I was somewhere else entirely. And then, I felt it. A shift in the air, a wrongness. I looked up. At the end of the aisle stood a man, not tall, but too large for the space, wearing a thick black coat and heavy boots, hair shaggy, eyes locked on me. He didn't smile. He didn't look away. It was like he had stepped out of the dark between seconds and was waiting for me to notice. "You like those toys?" he asked. His voice wasn't scary. It was soft. Too soft. I nodded. Didn't speak. I could hear my heart in my ears. He stepped closer, slow and easy. "Which one's your favorite?" he asked. I pointed, hand trembling slightly. "That one," I whispered, pointing to a plastic alien. He crouched down beside me, too close, too calm. "I could buy it for you," he said. The words came out almost gentle, like an uncle or a teacher. But they were wrong. So wrong. I pulled my hand back, stood up. "I don't need it," I said, voice tiny. He tilted his head. "Why not?" He smiled now, and I wished he hadn't. It didn't reach his eyes. It looked like someone had told him smiling was what people did, but hadn't shown him how. "I just don't," I said. I turned and started walking. Not fast, but not slow either. I wanted to disappear. Melt back into the aisles and find my mother and Lily in safety. But I could feel him behind me, following, not close, not far, just present. His boots didn't squeak or echo. They just moved, steady, deliberate. I passed the chips, the candy bars. Every aisle felt longer than it should have. Then, I saw her, my mom, still browsing, half distracted. I hurried to her side and grabbed onto the shopping cart like it was a lifeline. She looked down, startled. "Everything okay, sweetie?" I nodded. "Yeah, just looking at toys." I didn't say anything else. Didn't have to. I didn't look back. Didn't check to see if he was still there. But I knew. We finished up quickly after that. Mom grabbed her bottle, paid, loaded Lily back into the car seat. As we walked out, I risked one glance over my shoulder. He was still in the store, standing at the edge of an aisle, watching. He didn't follow. He didn't wave. But I could feel it, like static crawling under my skin. I never told my mom what happened. What could I say? That a man tried to buy me a toy? That he followed me but never touched me? It wasn't until I was older that I understood how close I might have come to something worse. He didn't want to hurt me in front of anyone. He wanted to find a quiet moment, a corner, a mistake. And if I hadn't walked away when I did,
If I hadn't found my mom when I did?
He might have gotten it. Now, whenever I walk into a store, I don't drift. I don't wander.
I don't daydream.
I remember him. Because sometimes the people who talk the softest have the darkest intentions. When I first took the night shift at Riverside Liquors, I thought I was gaming the system. Get paid to sit in near silence. No lines, no chaos. Just me, the hum of the neon sign, and the low crackle of dusty jazz leaking from the ceiling speakers. I liked the quiet. I liked the way the store felt after midnight, disconnected from the rest of the world. But on some nights, the quiet is too deep. It doesn't feel peaceful. It feels like the world is holding its breath, waiting. That Friday night, it was nearly closing, 2:18 a.m. The kind of hour where time feels slowed down, thick and strange. The front lot was mostly empty, just my beat-up Corolla, and an old blue van parked crooked at the far end. It had been sitting there since midnight. Windows tinted, no movement. I had noticed it earlier, hadn't seen anyone come out or go in, but I shrugged it off. You can't survive night shifts if you jump at every old vehicle with a bad paint job. I leaned against the counter, scrolling through texts from my roommate Sophie. 2 missed calls. She was probably asking me to bring a bottle to her party. I smiled to myself and texted back, "Almost done. See you soon." Then the bell above the door jingled. He stepped in, heavy-set, tall, ginger hair curling under a sweat-stained trucker hat, boots scraping across the floor like they were dragging something behind them. He didn't look around like a customer. He looked around like he was counting exits. I forced a smile. "Hey there. Let me know if you need anything." No answer. He moved toward the coolers in the back, slow and aimless. Not shopping, just lingering. Every part of me screamed to keep him in view. But I didn't want to spook him, or let him see I was scared. I busied myself behind the counter, wiped down the register, checked the shelves, checked the time. 2:23 a.m. 5 more minutes. That was all. He finally grabbed a 6-pack and lumbered toward the register. His steps echoed through the silence like they didn't belong in a place built for people. "That'll be $9.47, I said, voice too cheerful, too loud. He pulled out a crumpled 20. As he handed it over, his fingers brushed mine. They stayed there. Too long. Sticky, deliberate. "Keep the change," he rasped. I bagged the beer quickly. "Thanks. Have a good night." But he didn't move. He just stood there, watching me. "You work here every night?" "No, just filling in," I lied. He smiled. His teeth looked wrong, not just dirty. Wrong, small, jagged, like something trying to mimic human. "I like it here," he said. "It's cozy." He turned, walked out. I locked the door the second he stepped through it. Watched him through the glass. He didn't get into the van. He just stood there, still, facing the store. Even across the lot, I could feel the weight of his gaze. Heavy and wet and intentional. I ducked behind the counter, heart pounding. Started wiping again. Checked my phone. 2:36 a.m. I was almost free. I gathered my things, zipped my purse under my hoodie to hide it, checked the back door. Still locked. When I returned to the front, the blue van's headlights snapped on. I froze. The van rolled forward, slow, deliberate, and parked directly in front of the entrance. Engine running. I couldn't move. Couldn't think. Should I call the cops? Would they even take it seriously? 5 minutes passed, then 10. He didn't leave. Didn't move. Just sat there, staring through the windshield. I grabbed the metal flashlight from under the counter. The heavy one. The one that could crack a jaw if you swung hard enough. Texted Sophie. "Creepy dude outside. Call me in 5. Make it sound urgent." I breathed. Once. Twice. Then unlocked the door. And stepped out. The night air was cold and sour. The van's headlights shut off the moment I crossed the threshold. I walked fast toward my car, pretending not to look. Keys in hand. Flashlight ready. I was 3 steps from the door when I heard it. Boots on concrete. "Hey," he said, too soft. I didn't turn around. I yanked open the door. A hand grabbed my arm. Thick, wet. "Where you running, sweetheart?" I spun and swung. The flashlight connected with a thud. Flesh. Bone. He grunted and staggered back. I dove into the car and slammed the lock. The click of safety. He lunged, fists against the glass, mouth moving, but I couldn't hear what he was saying over the blood in my ears. I started the engine, slammed it into reverse, tore out of the lot. I drove until I saw the police station 2 towns over, parked outside for 20 minutes before I could breathe again. When I finally went in, they listened, took my statement, sent a unit to check the store. They found the van, abandoned. Inside were zip ties, duct tape, a stained mattress, several knives. That wasn't a drunk. That wasn't a man in the wrong place at the wrong time. That was a hunter. I never went back, not even for my last paycheck. I work in a bookstore now. Bright lights, people everywhere. But sometimes, when I close up at night, and I hear the bell above the door jingle, I still freeze. Because I know he's out there, looking for another small store, another girl, another cozy place.